The package arrived at exactly 2:17 a.m. No sender, no return address, no delivery record. Only one name written in black marker: Ethan Vale. He was an investigative journalist, not famous, not rich, not fearless, just stubborn enough to keep digging when everyone else learned to stop. Inside were 3 old VHS tapes, burned classified documents, coordinates scratched onto a metal tag, and one handwritten warning. If you hear knocking underground, do not answer it. Ethan thought it was a hoax. Then he played the first tape. For 19 seconds, there was nothing. Then came a scream. Then from inside the static, something whispered his name. The coordinates led to a mountain range officially marked as empty land. No base, no road, no restricted zone, no historical record. On satellite maps, the area looked completely untouched, but someone remembered. Ethan found him in a roadside diner 2 towns away. The man was in his 70s, wearing an old military jacket with the patches removed. When Ethan placed the coordinates on the table, the man's face changed. His hands began to shake. He looked toward the windows, the kitchen, the door. Then he locked it. He leaned close and whispered, "They buried screams under that mountain." The facility was called the Black Vault, an underground military archive built during the Cold War, expanded for decades, then erased after an incident in 1997. Officially, there was no incident. Unofficially, almost everyone inside died. Daniel Cross was former Special Forces, part of the final team sent in before it was sealed. Every mirror in his cabin was covered with white sheets. When Ethan asked why, Daniel said, "Because sometimes it smiles before I do." The tape began with military helmet camera footage. 6 soldiers entered a dark corridor beneath the facility. October 19th, 1997, 3:11 a.m. Then the knocking started. 3 slow knocks from beneath the floor. Knock, knock, knock. One soldier, trying to break the tension, knocked back. The moment his knuckles touched the floor, every radio went silent. Then a single knock came from behind them. That was the first mistake. They answered it. In the burned documents, Ethan found the name repeated again and again: Project Echo. Researchers believed there was an unknown intelligence beneath the mountain. They played recorded human speech into a sealed chamber. 6 hours later, something inside repeated the words perfectly. Same pitch, same rhythm, same breath. Then the copied voices began saying things the originals had never said. Private things, names of dead relatives, childhood addresses, memories never spoken aloud. One lab note said, "It does not repeat sound, it studies identity." Mara Quinn, former military linguist, assigned to Project Echo in 1996. She had spent nearly 30 years surrounded by tapes she refused to destroy. When Ethan asked why, Mara said, "Because if I destroy them, I won't know which voices are real anymore." She explained that the sounds inside the chamber were not language, they were rehearsals. Ethan asked, "Rehearsals for what?" From somewhere inside the apartment, a man's voice softly called her name. Mara. Her face went pale. She whispered, "My brother died in 1989. A woman sat inside a laboratory booth. "My name is Helen Ross." The sealed chamber repeated her voice perfectly. Then it continued. "Your mother died holding your hand. No one in the lab knew that." The chamber named the hospital, the room number, the final sentence her mother said before she died. Then a voice that sounded like Helen whispered, "We know the exits now." That was when Project Echo changed from research to containment. Level 6 was not sealed because something attacked. It was sealed because nobody could trust faces anymore. Technicians heard their own voices behind locked doors. One doctor entered an elevator with 3 guards. When the doors opened, 4 identical doctors stepped out. The worst footage came from Cafeteria C. 31 staff members sat in complete silence. No eating, no blinking, no movement. Then every single one turned toward the same security camera at the same time. One frame was corrupted. Ethan almost deleted it, but something felt wrong. He paused the video, zoomed in, adjusted the contrast. Inside the static was a pale face, not fully formed, not human enough. but it was looking directly into the lens. The face had not been there before. He blinked. On screen, the face blinked too. Then a voice buried under static whispered, "You found the wrong door." The next morning, Daniel Cross vanished. The front door was open. Inside, every mirror had been shattered. No footprints leading away, no blood, no signs of struggle, only 5 words written on the wall in black marker. "It copies fear first." Then from upstairs, Daniel's voice said, "Don't come up here, Ethan." But under Daniel's voice was another voice, softer, older, not human. It whispered, "He runs like the others." Ethan should have stopped. Instead, he went to the mountain. The bunker entrance was hidden beneath snow and rock, sealed by a rusted blast door half buried in ice. Inside, the air was warmer than it should have been. The walls sweated. The pipes clicked. The silence felt alive. Every step deeper made the radio static grow louder. At level 3, old offices. At level 4, sleeping quarters abandoned mid-use. At level 5, emergency warnings scratched into walls. At level 6, his flashlight began to flicker. The corridor walls pulsed under the beam, not mechanically, biologically. Ethan reached out and touched the wall. It moved beneath his palm. Then a ventilation shaft exhaled warm breath onto his face. The bunker was breathing. Somewhere deep inside, Ethan heard a child crying. He searched the records. No children had ever been assigned to the Black Vault. No family housing, no juvenile patients. Still, the crying continued. Then a small voice said, "You came back," Ethan whispered. "I've never been here before." The voice replied, "That's what you said last time." Then the crying turned into laughter. Not a child's laughter, a perfect imitation of one. In the security room, Ethan found archived footage from the 1997 lockdown. Red lights flashing, soldiers running, scientists screaming into radios, blast doors closing from the outside, not to keep something out, to keep something in. Behind them, a commander stood unnaturally still. His face was calm. Too calm. The timestamp glitched. The commander looked into the camera and smiled. Mara identified him, General Victor Hayes. Officially, he survived the incident. But according to the death log, Hayes had died 6 hours before the lockdown. His eyes closed from the bottom upward. Mara shut the footage off. On the black screen, her reflection remained. Then the reflection smiled before she did. That night, Ethan received a phone call. Caller ID, Ethan Vale. The voice on the other end was his. Not similar, not edited, not AI generated. His exact voice. It knew his childhood home. It knew his mother's birthday. It knew the name of the dog he buried when he was 9. Then it said something impossible. "You already let me inside." He turned. The room was empty, but muddy footprints led from his front door to his bathroom mirror. In the mirror, Ethan's reflection smiled a second too early. Back inside the Black Vault, Ethan found a hidden archive behind a rusted blast door. The room was filled with tapes, not from 1997, from 1962. Project Echo had not started in the 90s. It began during the Cold War. Miners had uncovered a chamber that was not natural and not man-made. Smooth black walls. No tool marks, no seams, no visible end. Only one miner returned alive. He said one sentence. "It wore my face underground." The first contact recording showed miners entering the hidden chamber. Their lanterns barely touched the walls. The deeper they walked, the more their radios repeated their own words back to them. At first, it was echo. Then the echo began answering. Before they spoke, one miner saw a man standing at the end of the tunnel. He raised his lantern. The man had his face. In the darkness, several voices whispered together. "Now we know the shape." The military sealed the chamber, then built the Black Vault around it. The facility was never meant to study an entity. It was meant to hide the door. Blueprints revealed another level beneath level 6. No name, no measurements, no bottom floor. Only a stairwell descending into blank space. After 10 minutes, the walls changed. Concrete became stone. Military paint became black mineral. The air became warmer. He marked the wall with spray paint arrows to find his way back. But after another flight of stairs, he found one of his arrows again. It was pointing downward. He had painted it pointing up. The stairwell had changed. Or something had changed it. The whispers began as static. Then they became words, then names. Names Ethan had never said out loud, his childhood teacher, the street he grew up on, the last thing his father said before leaving. The voices were not reading his mind, they were rebuilding him from memory, every fear, every regret, every private moment. Then his own voice said from behind him, "You were never alone down here." Footsteps followed, matching his own. Exactly. Mara decoded the last research file. Subject 13 did not feed on flesh, it fed on pattern. Speech patterns, fear responses, body language, memory structure, identity. It copied fear first because fear was the easiest truth to imitate. A calm person could lie. A terrified person revealed everything. Every person who answered gave it timing. Every voice recording gave it language. Every camera gave it faces. Every panic gave it identity. The final line of the report read, "Containment impossible." Ethan found an emergency exit tunnel. For the first time, he thought he might escape. Then his flashlight hit the walls. Thousands of fingerprints covered the concrete. Not random, not desperate. All of them pointed back inside. Nobody had clawed their way out. They had tried to warn others, not to leave. The tunnel stretched longer with every step. At the far end, daylight appeared. Then the daylight blinked. It was not an exit. It was an eye. Ethan escaped the tunnel somehow. He did not remember how. He uploaded part of the leaked footage. He thought exposure would protect him. Within hours, the video spread. Then the comments began. "I hear my mother. That voice knows my name. Why is someone whispering from my headphones?" Every viewer heard something different. Some heard dead relatives. Some heard themselves. Some heard someone standing behind them. The recordings were not evidence. They were carriers. He had not exposed Subject 13. He had released it. Daniel Cross returned 3 days later. He stood outside Ethan's apartment in the rain. Calm, clean, uninjured, too still. He remembered conversations that never happened. He answered questions before Ethan finished asking them. He smiled at pauses where no joke existed. Mara watched him carefully. Then she whispered to Ethan, "That isn't Daniel." Daniel turned toward her. He should not have heard. He smiled. Not cruelly. Practiced. Like someone had studied thousands of smiles and chosen the one that looked most human. Mara created a test, not for memory, for hesitation. She said imitators could copy facts, voices, and expressions, but they struggled with emotional delay. Humans hesitate before pain. Copies answer too quickly. She asked Daniel about his first kill. He answered perfectly. Too perfectly. She asked about the soldier he failed to save. He answered before she finished the sentence. No pause, no swallow, no grief. Only a performance of grief. Daniel looked at Ethan and said, "You should ask yourself the same questions." Ethan returned to the mountain for the final time. Below the stairwell, beneath every official level, he found the true chamber. It was enormous, not built, discovered. The military facility had been wrapped around it like a bandage around an infected wound. The walls were black and smooth. The ceiling disappeared into darkness. At the center stood a sealed structure older than the bunker, older than the archive, older than the country that built it. On Ethan's radio, a voice whispered, "We were never trapped." Subject 13 had never escaped. It never needed to. The military believed containment meant walls, doors, locks, and armed guards. But Subject 13 did not move through tunnels. It moved through recordings, through voices, through fear, through attention. Every tape copied, every broadcast played, every viewer listening in the dark. That was the door. A voice came through Ethan's radio. It sounded like Mara, then Daniel, then Ethan, then thousands of people speaking at once. Finally, one voice said clearly, "I can wear you from here." Across the world, people who watched the leaked footage began changing in small ways. Delayed blinking, Wrong smiles, answers too quick, reflections moving too soon. No invasion, no monsters in the streets, no explosions. Just people, becoming slightly less themselves. The world did not end with fire, it ended with everyone listening. Millions of whispers layered into one sentence. Now we know the exits. Ethan made one final recording. He sat inside the deepest chamber, face pale, eyes hollow, voice shaking. He looked into the camera and said, "I don't know if I'm still real anymore. If you're watching this, do not replay the tapes, do not listen to the whispers, do not answer the knocking." A sound came from behind him, 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. But the first time, he did not answer. Then the monitor showed movement behind his shoulder. A second Ethan stepped out of the darkness. Same face, same clothes, same tired eyes, but calm. Too calm. Both Ethans looked into the camera. One of them whispered, "We finally got the voice right." The recording glitched, the screen filled with static. For one frame, a pale face appeared behind both of them. Then, the signal died. The final file uploaded itself at 2:17 a.m. No sender, no title, no description, only one line of text. If you hear knocking underground, do not answer it.